Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Jean Meeks Koch on the line, and she is CEO and founder of Positively People. Jean, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you, Adam. It's nice to be back.
All right, Jean. So I am so excited to have and welcome you as a new author in our upcoming book. So really excited to publish your work and to really get it out there to our audience. So first off, just want to say congrats on being chosen for the new project.
Thank you. It's been exciting to work with everyone that's part of the book. It's exciting work.
All right, Jean. So we'll get into, of course, some of the writing that you'll be doing and some of the contribution to the book. We won't spoiler it all, right? Because we do sell books, and we will be bringing you back on the show, of course, when the book is live, so that we can do a deep dive into your writing. But let's get this episode started the way that we start them all, with our Mission Matters Minute. So, Jean, we at Mission Matters amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Jean, what mission matters to you?
The mission that matters to me is the continuation of multi-generational families and creating legacy. So as family businesses start, we don't want them to end. We want them to continue on into future generations and create future leaders.
Yeah, that's great. And I love bringing on mission-based entrepreneurs and executives to share why they do what they do, how they're doing it, and really how they're trying to make a difference in the marketplace. So great to have you on. And I guess let's just dive right into this book. So our new Mission Matters book, what type of, and I know there's many, but what type of things do you hope that the readers will take away from your writing?
That's a great question. So when I approached writing the chapter I was writing, I really thought about, how do we make change happen? How do we show up differently? And I really focused on identifying what's happening now in your life and really authentically identifying it, and then really being able to provide space, taking a pause and providing some space to really think about where do you want to be at, and then being able to really evaluate, where are you at now, where do you want to be, and what are the activities, what are the things that you need to do differently? Either you need to stop doing, you need to improve on doing, or you need to bring into your life to make that change happen.
So love it. And this is one of the things that, and we'll get further into this as well as we get into Positively People and the work that you're doing there with families. But I have to ask this question. So why a book? I mean, lots of different ways to obviously get your message out there, to get your word out there. And I'm biased, right? As a publisher, I love books. I mean, I grew up with them. I just, smelling the paper. We do a lot of podcasts, a lot of video, a lot of getting stories out there in, some of the multimedia fashion. But why a book?
I think a book is really important because it allows you to take the time to really think about what's important to you and to put that into print. There's so much permanence to it. I think when you have a podcast, I've done podcasts and blogging and things like that, and the permanent feel of it's not quite there. So I think when you have something that's very relevant and very important and can stand the test of time and transition really well, I think that putting it into a book is very important.
Yeah, I'm on the same page there, pun intended, Jean, right? Come on, had to. I'm allowed one pun or corny joke a day. That was my one.
Great, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I like that idea of pause. And the thing is to, a book, you still have to kind of sit down, and whether it's your ebook or whether you have, the paperback version, whatever your preference is. But the idea that you have to sit down, you have to give it some attention. We're podcasts, which, by the way, obviously we're big podcasters, but a little bit more on the passive listening side. Another thing I like about books is just being able to make those notes and refer back to it in the future. Like, I think about some of the books that have been, instrumental in my life. When I think about like the E-Myth, right? That was a big one for me. Your How to Think and Grow Rich, like all the classics, like been through them all, and they're, they still are the ones that I think as a business owner and somebody that's always looking to, get better, have made a big difference in my life. What are some of the books or some of the ones that you maybe remember?
Oh, there's some great books out there. I think that I like Think and Grow Rich. I think that's a really good one. Rich Man, Poor Man's a really good one.
Oh, yeah.
That Purpose Driven Life. I think that's an excellent one. There's so many out there. I mean, just a lot of good work about From Good to Great,
Oh, yeah.
and, I think that with books, it's really it's what resonates with you. So something that might resonate with me might not resonate with somebody else.
Yeah.
We're all different.
Yeah.
There's one I'm reading right now that my son gave me. It's called The Upside of the Dark Side. And it's
Ooh.
really focused on, being positive, and positive psychology might not be everything, but when you deal with the dark side, there is an upside to it. And I'm finding that's a profound read too. So there's just so many out there. I'm an avid reader, as you can tell. I like to read all the time. Yes.
Well, Jean, you forgot the previous editions of Mission Matters. Come on now. No.
All the previous editions of Mission Matters, yes.
had to. Okay, fine.
Right up there. How could I not, right?
All right, let's switch focus a bit here. I want to, and again, for all the listeners, we will bring Jean back on and we will do a deep dive into her writing. We just want to make sure that the book is available so you don't get all excited and then you can't click on the link and go grab a copy. So we'll be bringing Jean back on. Don't worry about that. But I do want to shift focus here a bit, Jean, and get into Positively People, especially for those that maybe didn't catch some of our previous work. Maybe just start with telling us a little bit more about the company, please.
Yeah. So Positively People has a couple of focuses, but its major focus is really in multi-generational family businesses. So family businesses are the heartbeat of the world. We look at, businesses as a whole, and you can kind of trace the roots back to so many of them came out of family entrepreneurs. And then so many of our major enterprises still exist as, multi-generational family-owned businesses. So they have such a rich piece of the fiber of the world, the fiber of society. And so they're real focused. And they're very different. They need to be, there's so many differences between a multi-generational family business and a standard corporation. There's a lot of corporate elements to it, but there's a family legacy piece of it, and the richness of that legacy and the importance of that to future family members and the value that they see they contribute to the world as a whole. And so that's really a core focus of ours. Another core focus of ours is in behavioral assessment. So we do a lot of work working with talent management and human capital and behaviors, and the goal is to really help individuals understand themselves at a deep level so that they then can understand others, and then how to work together as strong, cohesive teams. So how do we create an environment in the workspace that provides a feeling and a sense of self-worth, self-value, that you are a contributor, where you can really be your whole self and you can bring yourself to work. And in the work environment, how can other members of your team or your organization really understand you? So those are some key focuses for us.
So one of the things that you mentioned, so multi-generational, family planning. What are some of and I know every business is going to be different, right? Every business, depending on what generation the family's on, ownership, everything's going to be different variable wise. But I know that maybe some of these family businesses face some of the same challenges. What are some of those challenges when it comes to succession planning that maybe some of them face?
I think it's alignment, right? I think that if I look at like a first generation, those are your owner founders. They started the company. There's a lot of entrepreneurship. There's a lot of drive. There's a lot of roll up your sleeve and just make it happen. And then in the second generation, you're into, children of those founders that are siblings. And, they're so used to being together because, they grew up together, right? They know a lot about one another. And so it's very organic how they work together. But as we get into the third generation, which is really into what we call the cousin generation, now you have the next group of leaders, owners coming together. And they didn't grow up in all the same households, right? Those siblings had their own children, built their own nuclear family. So how do you create alignment around the future, the vision, the legacy, what's important when you're coming from different family branches? So I live in South Carolina. We have a lot of enormous, gorgeous, big oak trees. And I'll sit and I'll just look at the oak trees, and, they'll be 400 or 500-year-old oak trees. And you think of how they sustain and really, they have really strong root systems and really strong, branches there. But there's a communication, I really feel, that happens amongst an oak tree, just like it needs to be strong collaboration and communication across nuclear family branches.
And one of the things I like about this, for those that maybe are watching this that are, family business owners, whether it's founders, second generation, third generation, main thing here, and I find this in many different professions, doesn't have to be just consulting, but just in general, is that they're not alone. Like there's other individuals that maybe are on the same generation that have had the same type of problems, and that there is help there. Like they don't have to reinvent some of the processes or some of the things that take for or that make for a great succession plan going down the line. Am I off on this, or?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think that there is some generational, I would say, normalcies, normal things that happen in different generations, normal behaviors that we see happen in different family generations. And knowing that, you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
Others are experiencing the same things. That really gets into the family dynamics, the human dynamics of family systems, right? And I think it's powerful to know that there are resources out there that really do focus on that. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. They'll be looking at a management consultant, and there are a lot of fabulous and great management consultants. Yeah. But a management consultant is not a family business advisor. Right? Family business advisors or consultants really understand the family dynamics as well as the business dynamics, and as well as good governance and what it takes to have good governance, both corporate governance and family governance. Because again, just as you have to have corporate governance, you have to have family governance. If you're multiple owners from different family branches, there has to be agreed upon policies and ways to do things.
So speaking of ways to do things, and any great process is going to have some type of data collection. In the case of yourself and Positively People, so you have business assessments. Like, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we really work with more behavioral assessments. Since so much of the work with multi-generational families really comes down to how we engage in conversations with one another. And a lot of it goes back to, our behaviors that have been developed since we were children, right? What are those experiences that we've had? What are the belief systems that it's brought? And what are the behaviors that then come from that? So, and those behaviors then become actions, some positive actions and some not so positive actions. And so what the behavioral assessments do is it helps us understand what mindset you're coming from. And in that, we can help others within the family system understand that also. And we can work together to say, wow, how can we work? What kind of experiences do we now need to really move together cohesively? And I think that behavioral assessments really help us do that. And we use a myriad of them, not just a singular type, but we have multiple ones we use.
And are these for individuals or team assessments, or give us a flavor for that?
Yeah, good question. So there are individual assessments, and the individual assessments will range everywhere, everything from, being able to look at your own work style in the workplace. So when you're approaching work, how do you approach work? It'll also look at your behaviors as a leader. So we have an assessment called Work of Leaders, which really looks at how we vision, what are strengths and how we vision, then how do we take people and help align them to our vision so we create buy-in, and then how as a strong leader can we champion execution. And so what are the behaviors that are necessary to lead a group to execute successfully? So that's another behavioral assessment. We have behavioral assessments that focus on EQs called Agile EQ, and this really helps us understand our own worldview in relationship to others' worldview and how expandable we are. What's our elasticity to see through others' lenses? And I think that's so important. I mean, it's critical for diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? We have to understand different worldviews, and we have to be willing to stretch and to look, and understanding where it's easier for us to do that and where it's more challenging helps us to really work and create that stretchability. It's like a yoga exercise, right? We've got to stretch, we've got to stretch our brain. We've got to stretch our ability to see things differently. And it is hard. Absolutely. And then we have some assessments that are team-based that really look at, the attributes of building a cohesive team. So we do a lot of team assessments and then help build a strong, cohesive team, because collaboration, cohesiveness as teams is vital. Look at the complexities of the challenges we have across the world, and nobody can solve a problem by themselves. So it's impossible. We have to be able to collaborate. We have to be able to be cohesive and share ideas and understand others. So knowing our team and our ability to be cohesive is really vital to success as a leader.
That's great. And when I think about like the idea of assessments, first off, I love assessments personally, because every time I do one, I get something out of it, like whether it's team assessment, individual, but I feel like it always adds some type of progress. There's always some type of learning, whether it's about, somebody else that you're taking the assessment with that's working on the same team and kind of reviewing results, or you learn something about yourself. So huge fan of assessments in that process. So in terms of, I want to switch a little bit here, the Family Business Consulting Group. Tell us a little bit more about that and kind of the role and what that plays in this.
Absolutely. So I'm actually a senior consultant for the Family Business Consulting Group. And it's a worldwide group of consultants. It's amazing. It has a rich history. It's touched over 2,700.
Wow.
2,700.
That's a lot.
The multi-generational family businesses, some of the world's largest complex family businesses. And it's a group of consultants. We're all very seasoned in family consulting work, either in governance and family systems and communication and conflict resolution and corporate governance. We get into the hard things of, you've got a group of siblings and who's going to be the next leader, how do you start figuring those things out? What's the pathway going to be forward? What's the strategy? I call it the continuity strategy. But FBCG is very profound in its work. It's steeped on a lot of research. It's written thousands of articles, a lot of published white papers, and a lot of books that have been written together with great research behind it. So I'm proud to be a senior consultant and a member of that team. And so basically Positively People, as a senior consultant, we're focused on the multi-generational family businesses.
And so another thing or another facet of this is Journey of the Heart. So it's an intensive and it's executive coaching. Like how does that part work?
Yeah, so I do a lot. It's something that I developed on my own over the years. I called it Journey of the Heart because I got really involved in working with executives that they wanted executive development. And what I found is that to be a really strong executive, right, you usually have a group around you, whether it's a significant other, or partners, family members, but it's the ability to really take time away and deep dive into what you really want in your future and bring along a few key people within your tightly knit closed system, as I want to call it, that can share ideas, share thoughts, be there to support you. So it is really, it's a passionate journey of awakening that at the end really sets forth some really nice action plan to move forward with a vision that it's hard to get a vision of where you really want to be, who you really define who you are, unless you're willing to take some time away. And this forces you to take some time away and really get into some deep conversation. So it's not therapy. So I don't want anybody to think it is. It's not therapy. It really is to envision that future. What does it look like? And then to start putting, some painting that future. What does it look like?
What are some of the outcomes you've heard from this? Because I feel like there's always breakthroughs whenever somebody goes to some type of intensive, or like you said, hit the pause button, or not hit the pause button, but where they kind of separate themselves from their normal routine. And now they're focused on that one thing, and they're doing it in the course of, a structured guide in this case. What are some of the outcomes you've heard from some of the participants, or just some of the outcomes you've seen?
Yeah, I think, the outcomes that I enjoy is the ability for the individual at the end of it to come up with a plan, an actual plan that they really feel they can own, and they feel that it's really their plan. It's going to redefine what they really want. With some of my younger executives, especially family executives that might have felt really constricted, like they were on a pathway that they felt they had to be versus that they chose to be. That many of them leave and feel, boy, I feel I have a choice now. I feel that I'm owning this that I want to be versus this is what I should be. And we kind of leave the shoulds behind and really focus on what we choose to be. And I think that kind of redefines the individual and the being that they want to be. And I think that's powerful. And I've seen a lot of wonderful things happen with a significant other, a significant partner, where they both become really aligned into that focus. And then many times in the work that we do, it's really both individuals coming up with their vision, their individual vision for themselves, and then how do they align their individual visions also for their partnership vision. So it's an and and an and.
Who is this appropriate for? Who's this intensive appropriate for? You mentioned it's also available to young executives as well. Like, give us a little bit of a flavor of that.
Yeah, so I think it's for young aspiring executives, absolutely. It starts really helping define, getting somebody to start thinking about, if I had a blank plate, a blank palette, right, and I got to paint it anywhere I wanted to be, what would it look like 10 years from now? What would it look like 5 years from now? And then you can start putting the legs on, the color on it, right? And so with aspiring executives, I think that's a big benefit. I think individuals that are in the middle of a professional career change, they're not sure if they're where they want to be. They might be, it's kind of stalled out. Things are feeling stale. And where do I go? It's feeling stale. And help them get through being stale to start formulating what can I do with the robustness and learnings and experiences of the past versus, and taking that forward. And then I also think that one of the areas that I really enjoy working with is executives that are on their continuity plan. You know, they're going to know that they need to let go of the baton, especially in family enterprises where you'll get generation leaders that they know that they need to let go and let the next generation start taking more responsibility. But they're not sure how to do that because that family enterprise, that family business has been their total identity, right? So what happens? You know, how do they shift from it being their total identity to shifting to a new chapter and maybe becoming more of a wise counsel, mentor? Because they're not used to that. They're used to really doing versus being that wise counsel because they feel like, well, then who am I?
Yeah.
So I love the work I get to do with multi-generational leaders that are in those, you know, latter years and trying to figure out their continuity plan of who am I and where am I going next, and helping them to really realize the vitality of the next chapter that they do have if they would just turn that page, right? So.
Well, Jean, this has been great, really having you back on the show to obviously announce that you're part of the book and get further into Positively People. You're also your intensive. I mean, I just have to ask, I know you're busy. What's next? I mean, what's next for you? What's next for Positively People?
Oh, gosh. It's busy. You know, I think that coming out of COVID, I really never stopped through COVID. I stayed, you know, I was on the road, I traveled. I was fortunate that I was safe and healthy. And it's really great to be engaging individuals to start, you know, rebreathing life again, you know, rebreathing, reinvigorating. I think that reuniting, reinvigorating, reconnecting, my big re's, redefining that next chapter. So I think that's where I'm at. It's a big re type of thing. Renew.
Oh, I'm in. Rewind. I'm in.
Absolutely.
Well, Jean, I just have to say it's been great having you back on the show. If somebody is listening to this and they want to connect and learn more about Positively People and just to follow your work in general, I mean, what's the best way for people to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. The easiest way is just, you know, to get on our website, positivelypeople.com. If you're a multi-generational family business, a large family business, you can get on thefbcg.com and have a chance to find out all kinds of interesting things and amazing resources. So have fun looking into it.
Oh, that's great. And we'll put all that information in the show notes just so that the audience can just click on the links and head right on over and check out Positively People. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters as a platform or listening to an episode or engaging, just to let you know, we're all about bringing on entrepreneurs, executives, business owners, have them share, you know, why they do what they do, how they do what they do, and really all learn together. If that's the type of content that you're into or sounds interesting, we welcome you. Hit that subscribe button because we have many more mission-based individuals just like Jean coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Jean, really, it has been a pleasure. Can't wait to have you back on the show for when we actually launch the book so we can do a deep dive in your writing. Thanks again for coming on.
Sounds wonderful. Thanks, Adam. Have a terrific week and start to almost June. Wow.
Woo, I'm in. All right.